and Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome to the Bucs Banter Podcast. I am your host, Collin Hallboom, and I am joined by Scott Capron, one of my co-hosts on the Bucs Banter Podcast. Our third wheel, Bo Danyard, is not in the building, unfortunately, tonight. He couldn't make it. And we've been off the air for a little bit. We've been taking a little break, waiting for the right time to return. And can't think of a better time than right now in the midst of free agency, especially with the Bucs making plenty of noise. It's been very entertaining in the world of the NFL. And before I get into it with my co-host Scott here, got to plug the work. So if you're new to the show or you don't know who I am, make sure you check out my work for Sports Illustrated's only website dedicated specifically to covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is bucsgameday.com. We have got you covered for free agency. The NFL draft is approaching, and I'll be digging into that full steam. Any and all Bucs news, get it there. And make sure you follow us on Twitter while you're at it. Our handles are on the screen. Scotty, how we doing, man? You been enjoying this NFL free agency so far or what?
Man, I don't know. I'm sure I say this every year, but this feels like the craziest free agency season yet. Maybe it's just picking up, and maybe every year it gets more and more coverage. I'm not exactly sure, but wow, nonstop the last few days, hey? The Tampa Bay Baker-neers, as it is.
Yeah, Tampa Baker.
Yeah. Wow, that sucked. Yeah, the Bakers. But anyways, seriously though, just seems like there's a new move, like a new big signing, a trade, something like that every 5 or 10 minutes, just checking Twitter constantly. Some big names moving. Not only just huge stars and like throughout the league, but also, key role players. And the Bucs were certainly not not to be forgotten, making plenty of moves themselves. So pretty good.
Yeah, and I think, everyone in Tampa or who follows the team was expecting this mass exodus just based on, of course, Tom Brady leaving, the Bucs being over $55 million over the cap. It was second worst in the league to the Saints until the Saints kicked more money down the line, as they always do. And the Bucs look to be up against it. And GM Jason Licht deserves a lot of credit for how he and of course his capologist, as many people refer to him, Mike Greenberg, who's been a bit of a wizard in terms of the numbers. But for him to make an impact in this free agency period was unexpected, including by those who follow the team closely. So it was a real nice surprise when I'm going to start with one of the most ascending stars at the cornerback position, Jamel Dean. I think it's not hyperbole to make that sort of statement. He's been fantastic for the Bucs. He's been so good, and he was going to be one of the top free agents on the market at one of the most important positions, of course. And the Bucs got him on a great deal. 4 years, $52 million is the contract. It's $26 million guaranteed. Like I said, fantastic deal for the team. And I love it. I love locking down him and Carlton, having that cornerback position, having the outside handled. I think it's essential. And I'm really excited just to the continuity factor as well, right? They're playing for Todd Bowles. They're familiar with his system. So with how things ended too, to end the regular or the playoffs with Jamel Dean, apparently he maybe had a broken toe. He only played special teams. It was a weird situation. And I think most people thought it was a foregone conclusion that Jamel Dean was going to take a big money deal somewhere other than Tampa. Didn't end up happening. Jason Licht got his guy, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled as a supporter of this team to be able to root for Jamel Dean for another 4 years, assuming all goes well.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the continuity. With the continuity mention there, it's also you draft a good player, you want to keep that player, right? That sends a message, and it's part of the culture. It's just another great move by Light. And, the fact that it's such a great deal, like from a term standpoint, the 4 for 52 is just the cherry on top. Like you would have overpaid to keep him. Like that's how important he was, right? Or you would have paid more than that, I'm assuming, or been happier with a more expensive contract. So just, gold stars and green check marks all around to the deal. One of my favorite Bucs to watch play on the defensive side. He's been awesome. young. To be honest, I'd kind of tried to remove that Cowboys game from my memory, like most of last season, from everything that I watched, and forgot about that special teams thing because he was a game time decision basically right up until kick, if I remember correctly, right? So, anyways, awesome, great job by the Bucs, get it done, and hopefully he's a cornerstone, and really ascends to one of the top, into that top echelon of DBs in these, like, during this contract.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bucs have a shit ton of free agents, so they're going to lose some guys in the secondary. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Mike Edwards, Logan Ryan, Keanu Neal. So that's 3 safeties right there. They're all UFAs.
Mm-hmm.
How are the Bucs going to round out their secondary? We shall see. But I think bringing back Jamel Dean, he was hands down the most important piece. I'd like me some Logan Ryan, to be honest. I actually really like what I saw from him. And I would be happy to bring him back on an affordable veteran deal to give him a little more run if the Bucs aren't able to retain the services of, say, Mike Edwards. If we're talking about wanting to keep your guys who you drafted, you won't be able to keep them all, but I'm very curious to see how that plays out. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I think in the way this current mold, I envision them not having the money to keep him around. So I think he's probably on the way out. Keanu Neal. He's hard hitting. He played pretty well, but again, all these guys, it's not realistic. And I think for what is financially feasible, I think Logan Ryan is one that I've kind of got circled as one I'd like to see brought back.
Yeah.
But the draft is obviously an option as well. And that's surely somewhere they'll look, whether it's a safety, a cornerback, or both. That's definitely a position that they'll want to start to replenish the well a little bit, but not having to worry about your
position group for them, right? Because they've had depth, they've had guys. Now, like you said, 3 safeties coming up in free agency. Yeah, I'll just be curious to see what they do, how they value that, how they value the secondary. I mean, I don't know. This isn't how I would think about it, but they aren't going up against the most explosive offenses in their division, so I wonder if they feel like they could kind of patchwork a league average secondary on the cheap, or at least on a decent price tag, given that they're going to be going up against whoever the Panthers pick. I guess Derek Carr is with the Saints now, so that is I would call that an improvement over Andy Dalton, and then Ritter in Atlanta, right? So just kind of thinking out loud, I'm curious about how they handle this, who they end up signing, and how they end up attacking it in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. For anyone who's watching on YouTube, by the way, forgive the outdated overlay that you see on your screen. I mean, I like the colorway. I like the Spotify is right, the subscribe button. Oh yeah, believe that. But ignore the @Bucs Banter Twitter handle and bucsbanter.ca. Again, we're found at the written work's found at bucsgameday.com, and the Twitter is SI_Buccaneers for me, Captain Ron for Scotty. Okay, another massive and unexpected signing that I don't know, man. It just made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and that is Lavonte David. A 1-year, $7 million deal, fully guaranteed. Like, this guy just keeps doing favors for Tampa. The word was that the Bills specifically were interested in him. They just lost Tremaine Edwards to a big deal in Chicago. By the way, it's funny they didn't want to pay Roquan Smith, but then they pay Tremaine Edwards a huge contract.
Very strange,
right?
Super strange. Like, first thought as soon as I saw it,
yeah, it just seems funny to build from the linebacker spot. Like, I feel like that's one of the later ones you do. I don't know. But anyway, he had a great one. But Lavonte David, man, like, his signing, not only does it, in conjunction with the Dean signing, guarantee the Buccaneers will be serviceable at the very least on defense this season, but they have their most important culture setter, locker room leader, whatever you want to call it. He's just ingrained in the fabric of the Buccaneers. He's been so loyal to this franchise. And I mean, don't get me wrong, what you put on the field matters too. If he was just like Cam Brate has been loyal to the franchise. Yeah. He helped set the good culture, but he fucking sucked the last few years. So I'm not out here feeling warm and fuzzy when they bring him back every year. But Lavonte signing a below market deal for a player of his caliber. He is all pro caliber linebacker. He is absolutely still at the top. His PFF grades, all the metrics support that. And come on, man. The tape supports it more than anything else. You watching him fly around, 33 years of age, entering his 12th season. I don't give a shit. Fantastic deal. Just love that guy. I told Scotty offline before we went on, maybe my favorite Buccaneer of all time, Lavonte David. Like, he just might be. Him grinding through all those years.
And this just endears him that much more, right? Like 1 year, $7 million. I'm sure he could have got more than that. I got texts from a couple of Bills buddies, after we just saw that he signed the deal. So pissed because all signs were pointing to Lavonte was going to go up there and shore up that position for them, which they definitely need help with. And 1 year, $7 million. I don't know if he's getting any points on the back end or maybe added to his pension or something like that after his career, but very team friendly. Just the 1 year. Obviously, he is 33. As much as we like what we saw and how much he still played well last year, it's just fantastic. And you already hit on this, but as much as anything, the culture guy, and they need him there. And if he sucked, then get rid of him. I'm sorry. Like, we're running a team, we're running a business, but he was still really good. He means a lot to the franchise. He's been there forever. And just $7 million. You kidding me? Like, it's such good news. Such a great signing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I was already having bad dreams, just like thinking about how good he would have been with Matt Milano there in Buffalo. Like,
yeah,
I just don't want to see him in another jersey, and thankfully I don't have to, at least yet. So
I know.
I'm going to expect the same old Lavonte David this year, man. Like, I really am. So I'm sure all Bucs fans can rejoice with me and did rejoice with me when they saw that come across their timelines or TVs or wherever they caught the news. So Jamel Dean and Lavonte David, again, the Buccaneers not looking, things were grim, man. Things weren't looking like they were going to have the necessary capital to retain guys, but it was quality over quantity for Jason Licht and Mike Greenberg and that entire front office. They found a way, and I couldn't be happier with how they prioritized it between those two players. If there was anyone you needed to bring back who were free agents, it was Jamel Dean and Lavonte David, and Jason Licht did that. So God bless him. Now, a little more contentious of a player and more contentious of a decision. Okay, the Buccaneers, I guess, have found their competition for Kyle Trask in the form of Baker Mayfield.
God.
It'd been talked about a lot, and word was starting to come out that they were interested in Mayfield. My history with Baker is interesting. I was a Baker guy when he entered the draft. I fully supported the Browns taking him first overall in 2018. And he did have a solid 2-3 years in Cleveland, but then the wheels fell off in a big way. And to say that I changed,
he was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt. The nagging shoulder injury, and he played through it, and it kind of burned him. And they didn't really have weapons on the outside either, necessarily.
Nope.
I mean, like OBJ wasn't himself during that time, and they just, I don't know.
Yeah, they did. They weren't super dynamic or anything, and maybe part of that was him, but they didn't have a ton around him.
Right, but
I mean, they did have a job, I guess.
They still had a hell of an O-line and a great running game.
They did,
enough to get the job done. So you can look at it both ways.
That's fair.
The thing with Baker for me, so ultimately what I'm saying is, like, before the wheels fell off, I was a big Baker guy, and then I watched him in the NFL, and I really changed my tune. In fact, I'd say that's an understatement. I started to take issue a little bit with his brash, overly confident persona, because I think it only works when you're playing good. And I really hope we don't see him try and headbutt anyone with his helmet off or anything stupid that we saw in Carolina. But all that said, it's a nice deal for the Bucs. It's a good situation for him personally to reestablish value. I consider it low risk, high reward. Like, if Baker hits and out battles Trask and like has a full off season to acclimate himself to hopefully what we expect to be a very competent first time offensive coordinator, and Dave Canales coming over from Seattle, then who knows? He's got plenty of weapons around him. The O-line will be a question mark. They'll be younger. But he's got a running back. He's got good receivers. And I think it's a great opportunity for him. Okay. So he can earn a starting job here, depending what happens with Trask and how Trask looks. And if he doesn't, hopefully it's because Trask plays so well and not because Baker stumbles out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great point, Call. if Baker's good enough, or at least, and he showed us at the end of last year, I think that he's good enough that if Trask were to beat him out, then that's significant strides from Trask is what that would mean, right? Full disclosure, I don't think Trask is any good, so I don't think that's possible personally. But I'm also basing that off of about 4 games that I saw him play at Florida. So credit where it's due. But the other thing I wanted to mention is it's just like, wow, sticker shock, Baker Mayfield to the Bucs. Yeah, for a year, right? Like, and then we'll see what happens. It's this shit happens all the time. Try to reestablish value. It's funny. It's just because he was the number 1 overall pick. He's obviously a big personality. Has any of that matched up with where he was drafted, or has his skill or production matched up with where he was drafted, and kind of the headaches that he's either has caused, or at least it's the perception is that he's caused, right? Like, I don't know if he's a dick as much as he's just kind of annoying. You know what I mean? Like, okay, man, easy on headbutting people with your head while they have helmets on. That's really stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I like him, but I also don't think he's like some absolute dipshit in the locker room kind of thing. So I don't know. It's just funny that Baker Mayfield's going to be on the Bucs, right? Like, it's just funny.
Yeah, and I'm with you, man. The annoying thing is kind of a better way to explain it. Like, it's not like he has teammates coming out saying he's like the worst guy to play with or anything like that. He's brash. He's brash and confident.
Yeah.
I'd rather the guy be like that than mild and meek Mike fucking Glennon. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so
long neck. Yeah, I totally agree. I think
longest neck until Davis Mills
Davis Mills overtook him. I know, they're just like going into the Great Valley. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see how he actually plays and everything. My big thing with him when he came out was, like, at Oklahoma, he could run a bit, or at least run enough, right? He looks so unathletic in the NFL. And I guess that can, obviously, the NFL can make you look like that, even in comparison to college. Not that he was like some 4-4 speed demon or whatever when he was at Oklahoma, but he can still make enough plays with his legs. I don't think he has that gear at all anymore, which is funny.
He looks like he has Kirk Cousins speed now. Like,
yeah.
Like, and I think part of it, I don't know, but he looks rounder because of that chest protector or rib protector that he wears. So when he's like waddling around, it just looks so unathletic. I'm with you on that, man. I'm not sure whether we've talked about it before, but yeah, I'm with you.
It's unathletic combined with, like, he's pretty short. His arm's only okay. You know what I mean? And then you start factoring, you list those 3 things, and it's like, wow, he was the first pick, eh? But I know at the time it wasn't crazy. I mean, it was kind of a late jump, obviously. Was it the week before the draft? He really made, like, it really became obvious and the betting markets changed. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but
it was the day of that he.
Oh, okay.
It came out that he was going to be number 1 prior to, what was it, 2018? Trying to it was like, let me see. It was late, man. They had like kept it quiet for so long. Like, it was wild. I think Darnold was the talk most of the time. Most people were, and most people said they were going to go Darnold too. It's so funny after everyone makes fun of these guys. It's like, you would have fucking taken Sam Darnold too, or whomever, right? So that's the Josh Allen draft. He went 7th with Tampa Bay's pick, by the way. Tampa Bay traded down, took Vita Vea at 12 that year.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, shout out. By the way, we gotta get to this one. Bodin on YouTube, longtime listener, first time chatter. Could you guys rank the NFC?
I've heard of that guy. Yeah,
I have. Yeah, sure. I'll rank them. Derek Carr, CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder, Kyle Trask.
Yeah. Do you think? Hey, is this Stroud? Do we think it's Stroud for sure?
It reminds me a lot of, like, I don't know why all of a sudden everyone's just assuming Bryce Young isn't in play. Like that seems funny to me. Like, most people view Bryce Young as the best quarterback, and as soon as it was Frank Reich's Carolina Panthers of number 1, they're like, oh, it's CJ Stroud for sure. I'm like, well, he's got a type, maybe, sure, but like, I don't know, man. It's interesting to see at least I didn't check for myself, but I saw a lot of the markets were reflecting CJ Stroud right away.
Yeah, I think I randomly follow a Panthers beat writer, and they were like, they just tweeted the other day something about, let's not completely close the book on this. They like their gut was still that it would be Bryce Young, and that was maybe a week after it really. Sorry, not a week. However, a few days after the trade, right when it became it. It looked obvious, I guess, that they were going to go with Stroud, but anyway, I'm not convinced that it's not Young, but. Anyway,
I'd be willing like to bet on Young if he's not the favorite, then that's tempting. Like I'd be interested. Scotty, you're supposed to have the lines on everything tattooed on your forearm.
I know. Man? I'm sorry. I'll bring it up now. But yeah, Derek Carr over Mayfield. Yeah, I would take Carr over Mayfield. I think that's pretty clear cut at this point. Although we've talked about it, I'm weirdly higher on Carr than most people. So.
Yeah. Well, he got paid, and the Saints are bringing in Michael Thomas. A lot of people didn't expect that. I didn't either. I thought that relationship couldn't have soured worse, but I guess he is rejuvenated by the Derek Carr signing. Apparently, he was a big recruiter of him. But just to summarize sorry, but yeah, you got it.
Let me just give you these first overall pick odds really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stroud minus 250, Bryce Young plus 275, Anthony Richardson just climbing up at plus 400 now. Holy shit, man! Someone's gonna absolutely fall in love with that guy, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a guarantee.
Hey man,
I'm Carolina, I guess.
I'm infatuated with his skill set. I'll admit it.
Yeah, really.
But I was prior to I was prior to seeing the combine though. Like I knew he was gonna score off the charts. Like,
absolute freak.
But that Bryce Young, what is it? You say plus 275?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me is a good bet. That is a good bet, Bryce Young, plus 275. And I'm a Stroud guy. I really like CJ Stroud, but I don't know, man. Like that seems too one-sided. Like just remember, everyone thought it was Mac Jones. At this point, it was like a surefire conclusion. The Niners were taking Mac Jones. The betting market reflected it. Not even as like this just seems fishy. Scotty,
here's the thing, though. Can Stroud win a big game? Like, if you just look at his performances against Michigan, it's really hard to think that he's going to be able to step up and deliver just because of how badly they got the shit kicked out of him both times, right? So just throwing that out there as a little, I don't know, does he have it kind of thing, right? So I don't know, just wanted to mention it.
I'd love to see you cheering against him, but it's because he's playing against the Bucs twice a year instead of the Wolverines.
Yeah. Well, either way,
I like Stroud though. In all seriousness, so
yeah, I like him too. I was terrified every time they had the ball. I really like him.
Exactly. He quite the weaponry there on the outside too. My God.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, yeah.
We won't talk. We don't need to talk about
that Ohio State receiving core is better than Carolina's right now.
Oh God, it's not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah, I was planning to talk about that deal a little bit later, actually, but like, the Bears made out pretty damn good too, taking DJ Moore in that, man. That was nice for them. Real nice.
Yeah,
they
just
needed
another good player.
Yeah,
I was listening to, I think it was the Ringer NFL show. Then I went and did some digging myself on DJ Moore. So much more productive than I realized. Like, he's really had a great few years.
Quarterback purgatory as well. Like
kidding.
Look what he was dealing with.
In my head, I always thought he was like, oh no, Scott, you're kind of out there. You really like DJ Moore because he's showing flashes. It's like, no, man, he's just really good. This isn't some under the radar guy. He's just been really good. So that was a nice pickup for Chicago. But what do you think about Baker? Like, this is the Bucs quarterback. Tom Brady retired, and now they have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, it's not ideal.
What do you think?
I'm not high on Trask. I'm not high on Trask, just like you. But as a fan, you can find a way to get into that. I feel like we got nothing to lose. Like, if they're both terrible, then they're able to reset quite nicely for next year. And again, that's why I think this free agency period is so well handled by Jason Licht. Because if they lose a bunch of games, they can hopefully get a good quarterback in next year's draft or find a way to do it that way, but they'll still have plenty of talent under contract to like it not be a true blow it up rebuild like what we've seen in Atlanta and Chicago and shit like that, right? But in terms of the quarterbacks themselves, I really don't know with either. Like I'm more on the pessimistic side related to Baker from what I've seen in the NFL. He looked jittery. It looks like he wasn't patient enough to make reads. It looked like he knew like watching him in Cleveland. It looked like he knew who he was throwing to, before he had the ball off the snap. A lot of times, he just looked so panicky all the time, and it just didn't exactly inspire much confidence in me as a viewer or a talent evaluator. And I don't like what I've seen from him at the NFL level. But
no, I mean that's where I'm at too. To be honest, I don't want to shit on it because who knows? Maybe he has like a Geno Smith type renaissance here. You never know. But yeah, I'm not exactly feeling it. My concern is that they're in 3rd and 7 every possession. And now obviously it's not Byron calling the plays anymore. So my concern about that isn't quite as high as it might have been. But yeah, it'll be talk about turning a page, man. Like Brady retires. They signed Baker Mayfield after a couple weeks ago. I think they sent the smoke screen about they're ready to roll with Trask, which I don't think anyone believed. Or maybe, who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe they were. Maybe they were ready to roll with Trask and sign an even shittier backup and let Trask do the thing. But Baker was available and they were able to come to terms on something. But I don't know. I didn't buy that for a second with Trask. But once again, I don't think he's any good. So.
Yeah, like if they both suck, it's not the end of the world for this team is what I'm like pleased about. So it's going to feel like house money if one of them succeeds and one of them ends up playing really well. Then I'd welcome it. And financially, I mean, Jacoby Brissett signed for $8 million. Like Baker's $4 million is his base, and he can get up to 8.5. But I guess that's a great deal. You got backup quarterbacks arguably making, I think, what's it? Mike White in Miami is getting like $8 million a year, so he's getting half the price of a good backup quarterback. Fuck yeah, sign me up, man. Let these boys battle it out. Let's see what we got. So I'm a fan of the move.
I agree with that, and I thought the Brissett signing in Washington was nice. That's a great guy to have behind. What's his name? Howell.
Howell,
right?
Sam Howell, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the odds for the NFC South by any chance?
I've not. No, I have no clue. I assume the Saints are a heavy favorite at this point.
Saints plus 130, Panthers plus 225, Falcons plus 450, Bucs plus 475.
Wow, Bucs below the Falcons.
Bucs with the worst of odds.
Like I like what the Panthers are doing, so I even think that over the Bucs is strange. But I guess it comes down to that quarterback. And they're assuming they're going to get the best quarterback in the draft in Carolina, and they certainly have pieces elsewhere. They probably like the Frank Reich edition. I mean, a lot of the concern with the Bucs is at the quarterback spot, but they got a lot of guys who are good football players in other positions. So there's other ways to win games.
I'm going to completely talk out of both sides of my mouth because I love the Bucs here for a value play.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth a shot, I guess. Like, I'm not gonna condone that. I feel like you're trying to like rope me in here to give it a take you're gonna reference, dude, like in the future.
They could. The team is still good, and if Baker is even like what he looked like for the Rams those last few weeks, right? Like that's not bad. These teams aren't any fucking good.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean. Like if Baker should win the starting job unless we're sorely mistaken about something. So you're right. He with that team could very easily have them performing well enough to take the NFC South division. And the fact that they're last is wild.
I don't get the Panthers thing. That's crazy to me.
The Falcons one is even more crazy to me because they don't even have guys anywhere, and Desmond Ritter's their quarterback.
No,
so like
they don't have
that one's bizarre.
Yeah, they don't have guys. They don't have guys at
real
all.
Weird. But yeah, no, that's
weird.
Wild, man. I would not have guessed that. I would have thought the Bucs were second.
I would have thought they were second too. Just kind of like the honorary, second place position. I don't know, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, that's what I would have thought too. So seeing them fourth was quite interesting. But anyway, yeah. So Baker's your quarterback. Congrats.
Yeah. Now we got some other stuff we got to catch up on because we've been off the air, and all this stuff has happened. So another deal, the Bucs went and re-signed Anthony Nelson, Anthony Edwards. 2 years, $11 million, chance to get up to 13 mil with incentives. His 5.5 sacks were tied for second on the team last year. He stepped in really nicely when he had to because they were fresh out of bodies due to the Shaq Barrett injury. And he performed pretty well. Bit of a ball hawk, led the team with 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah.
A lot of right place, right time, it felt like with him. But so I would have liked that number to be a little less, to be honest, if it were up to me. But again, I mean, they're going to need someone to fill in until Shaq Barrett comes back opposite JTS. I mean, pass rusher is the biggest concern for me related to this defense and something they're going to need to address in the draft, likely early on.
Gotta get the JTS jump.
Big time. This is the year. This is it. A lot of people have already turned on him. I won't do it yet, but he's got to convert some of these pressures into sacks.
Yeah,
and he's got to look good doing it.
I think that could just be 1 year. All of those, not all of those, but pick a number of those pressures just are turn into sacks because the quarterback takes a step up into the pocket or whatever, and JTS is there. He doesn't get rid of the ball a half a second early, so it's not a sack, right? I think he was putting himself in position, which is huge. He does have to actually finish plays himself. I think Josh Capo tweeted out a video, if I'm not, or like a mashup of some clips of him getting to the quarterback but not actually making the play. So there's that too. Obviously, that's you simply have to do it. Man, think about how frustrating it must be for a pass rusher. Like
he's
you're
the
just
perfect
getting
example.
chipped. Yeah. And if you don't, you can get there, you can do everything right, but they happen to get the ball out like as they're falling to the quarterback as they're falling to the ground, or now with all the the various unnecessary roughness type penalties that can be called. Like there's just a lot of failing in a game, right? Like it's just God, it must be so frustrating.
Big time. And you're right, there's going to be like a regression to the mean, you would think, just based on luck alone. Like a lot of those have to just be
that's what I think. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. And I hope so. I'm still I'm not off JTS at all yet. I was never pounding the table for him, but I certainly love the traits. And I think coming into his third, he played like 1 year of college. He missed a COVID year. Like he had 1 year of college experience, for fuck's sakes. Like this is going to be his third year now. I think we could be in line to see a jump from him. They're going to need it. The Bucs are going to need it if they're going to pressure the quarterback. And Lavonte David and Devin White both being behind him there helps. Vita Vea in the middle. Once Shaq Barrett comes back, I mean, it's tough on him too last year with no one else. So, like you said, those chips,
they were desperate. Yep.
Like it's just so easy. You're just going to take him out of the equation and make Carl Nassib or Anthony Nelson beat you. So, now one thing I want to talk about that I think also surprised a lot of people, similar to the way I described or introed the Jamel Dean and Lavonte David re-signings, was the trade of Shaq Mason. Important piece of what was a really banged up, underperforming O-line last year, but Shaq Mason certainly held his own. Steady vet as a right guard. He was known from his years in New England for being like one of the best run maulers in the game, run blockers. And he actually graded out even better in pass pro than running as the Bucs. He played really well. I believe the Bucs gave up a 5th rounder to acquire him a year ago, previous offseason. Here they've traded him to Houston. They did this before any of these signings because they got out from I think it was like 8 mil, close to 10 mil that they needed. So that's simply prioritizing what you got to do with your money and the limited amount that you have. So that is, it doesn't mean they don't like Shaq Mason, but word came out that he was going to be released if they couldn't get a trade partner. I didn't understand why someone else didn't jump on this. Like, I think it's good business by the Houston Texans. They give up a 6, and it is an early 6. It might even be the first pick or in the 6th round or right up there for the Bucs 7th rounder to get him. So the Bucs don't recoup a ton of draft capital, but they got something, an early 6th round pick, and they get off the money, which to them was kind of the sharp end of the sword they had to fall on there if they had any hope of bringing back Dean and Lavonte and bringing in a quarterback. So that's just weighing pros and cons right there. Yeah.
Yeah. They're making their list, right? Checking twice. yeah, you can't keep everyone, right? So too bad. I liked Mason in general, but good pickup for Houston, and to get another pick in the draft, not bad for the Bucs. But
Yeah.
yeah, not the biggest move.
No, it is what it is, and a lot of people have described it as them wanting to get younger on the O-line, wanting to see what they got with some of these guys. And sure, you could say like Luke Gedeke struggled mightily last year, but Aaron Stinney played really, really well when he took over for Gedeke at left guard. He busted his knee, but they did re-up him for a year at $2.5 million. So they like what they have there. And the other guy who played really well, filling in for Ryan Jensen at the center position, of course, was Robert Hainsey, someone we've talked about a lot on this pod. And the expectation is Hainsey's going to occupy Shaq Mason's position at the right guard spot with Jensen back. Okay, so we know Leverett can play. The thought is also Tristan Wirfs is going to move over to the left side. That's very likely what will happen. So I think how it's going to shake out, depending what goes down in the draft, is you're going to have Tristan Wirfs on the left side, left tackle. Left guard will be Nick Leverett, who we already know can play there. Center will be Ryan Jensen. Can't wait to see him back. Right guard will then be Robert Hainsey, who I also like what we saw from him with another year under his belt. Sure, at a different position, but he's been very versatile since college. He was a tackle there, center in the NFL, and he can play guard. And then on the right tackle position would be Luke Gedeke, moving back to his college position, the position he was considered to be most comfortable at, and he played against Dallas there and actually graded out really well. So in that playoff game. So anyway, that's how it looks. A much, much younger offensive line. Hard to imagine them being any worse than this past year. But that's kind of just the ramifications or how I foresee it shaking out with Shaq Mason out of the picture. Now,
yeah, I let's just see some continuity. Let's see a healthy offensive line, right? And then we can go from there, because this year was a disaster. Getting Jensen back healthy, I feel like that's a solid group that you listed. Obviously, Wirfs flipping to left tackle is a big change. What are your thoughts there? I mean, I just kind of trust that he'll be good because he's just awesome in general. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat just because he's such a spectacular athlete and such a smart football player. But that said, I don't want to like undermine his dominance as a right tackle, but I don't think they're going to do the move unless he's very comfortable with it. He did it a little bit at Iowa, but he was predominantly a right tackle there. If you're so used to going off that one side, like that's your one plant leg, like your one, like that's a lot of muscle memory. That's a lot of instinct that's developed through that comfortable position you're so used to. So now you're flipping it all around on him. But he's such an athlete, and like you said, Scotty, I think I kind of trust him to figure it out and be pretty damn good there. Despite some speed bumps early on, maybe. And if somehow, which I don't expect, he were to struggle there, then you move him back to the right side and figure it out from there. So I feel like they'll have a pretty good idea before they make that decision, though.
It's crazy though. Like anybody who's a fantastic right tackle, I don't know. This is once again just kind of thinking out loud. I don't know if this is a thought throughout the league, but is it ever just like, well, if you're so good there, why don't you play like the actual premium position? You know what I mean? Like they're the same position, but they're not also, right? It's just I don't know. Just that dichotomy between the two is interesting at how much one is more valued, and just who can actually step in there and do it, right? So
yeah, and the value has or that gap is shrinking a little bit just because the value of the left tackle was so inflated because of every quarterback was a pocket passer, a big lumbering white dude. And now they got to be mobile and all that. So you see a bit of a transition, but you're right. It is funny, man. It is wild. And of course, for anyone who doesn't know, most people are right-handed. So that's your blind side. So that's why the left tackle position was more desirable. Players released. Shit, man. We got a lot of stuff we haven't hit on because we've been off the air. But Donovan Smith, speaking of offensive linemen, he gone. Lenny Fournette, he gone. Cam Brate, he gone.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you for your service, gentlemen. I appreciate each of you for what you contributed to this team, helping us win a Super Bowl. But also like sayonara, this had to happen based on your play, each and every one of you. I'm sorry if that sounds ruthless, but that is what it is. I was so glad to see that happen.
Wish you all the best. So glad none of you are going to be playing for the Bucs next year. That's it. So,
and I've just had enough of the roller coaster ride that is Donovan Smith. I mean, over the course of his career, he really got me to hop on his bandwagon during that Tom Brady first 2 seasons when he just all of a sudden looked like a top 10 tackle in football. And I was like, Jason Licht, a genius. This is why he drafted him. Because he had a real rocky start to his career. Granted, he was thrown into the fire as a starting left tackle right away, but God, did he revert to the worst Donovan Smith I've ever seen this past year. Led the league in penalties. Was like second in yards
and timely penalties too, right? Like, just backbreakers. It seemed like anytime it, whether it be extending a drive or maybe even a touchdown and just getting fucking just mauling someone, but not in a good way, like literally tackling them and getting called for a hold, right? So, hey, good luck, pal. But you kind of killed the team. So
exactly. So like, that is what it is. Smell you
Lenny,
later.
Man, it was time. I just a quick, 30 seconds on Lenny.
Time to retire.
Yeah, time to retire. It's just his skill set is so just average. I don't know, just not usable in the league right now. Like he looks like a football player. He shows glimpses of like a real football player. We've obviously seen it, and it's just not there all the time. Doesn't make anybody miss. Linebackers can eat him up no matter, even though he's huge himself. It just doesn't look good. It's not fluent. I don't know what he would bring to an offense other than in goal line and short yardage situations, which I know he doesn't want to just do or doesn't want to exclusively do anyway. So I don't know. Just kind of a failed experiment, I suppose. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't say that. He had his moments, but I should just say it was time to go. It was time to move on. So,
yeah, it's kind of like Russell Westbrook in the NBA. It's like, give up the dream, accept your new role, just be a goal line back. Like, do what Jamal Williams did in Detroit. I don't know. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the juice, man. The game's changed since, I know it wasn't that long ago, but the game has changed, man. He was that bruising back. And granted, man, one thing I got to give that guy is he started catching the football and adjusting to like Tom Brady and the check downs, and he did pretty good in that area. But yeah, Lenny don't have it anymore, and I'm really glad I don't have to worry about him taking carries from a younger, more spry, talented back in Rachaad White, for example, and whoever they draft.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we've pretty much hit on all the Bucs stuff that I wanted to talk about. We also we touched on the Panthers trading DJ Moore and picks for that first overall selection. We talked a little bit about the quarterbacks that'll be available, but we're going to dive into that plenty more before the NFL draft. Can't wait to really sink my teeth into that. So we're going to save that. Derek Carr to the Saints. Michael Thomas followed. Saints are kicking it down the can, trying to keep it up. Lamar Jackson's interesting, man, and I almost want to save that one for Bo because Bo is such a like Lamar guy and he's like a closet Ravens fan. So I feel like we almost don't, unless you got anything you want to mention related to the Lamar Jackson saga, but he is like free to negotiate. I would say his agents are free to negotiate, but he doesn't have one.
Right, exactly.
On his behalf.
I don't know. I almost don't want to give Lamar a drive-by here, like a drive-by segment, just because there's so much going on and there's so much that can be discussed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like that would be my headline, I suppose. What a wild deal. I'd kind of like to see him unleash somewhere else at this point for sure, right?
Yeah, it feels like it's just weird. Like, I guess I don't. Yeah, I don't even want to start talking about it because then we won't stop. So I don't want to save it for both. And that'll. I have a feeling, next week when we're on next or whenever, that'll still be a storyline. Zeke, your boy Zeke released. Don't think we talked about that.
That's like
is what it is.
That's like Jones having to cut one of his sons out of the will, right? Like, can you imagine actually having to have that conversation? I thought Zeke was going to have a lifetime contract at that place. So, I mean, good for them for realizing that he's a total money suck and he isn't as good as Pollard, and they made the right decision to get off him. But yeah, I honestly didn't think they were going to do it. I didn't think they would. So, did you see any Zeke to the Bucs talk today on Twitter?
Fuck, I wish you didn't ask. Yeah, obviously I saw that. That's just not happening. That is not happening. It makes no sense. That's just bringing in like Lenny again, the guy we just said see you later. Like, it makes no sense. It will not happen.
I agree.
There's no way, man. Jason Licht learned, like, there's no chance. Not a chance in hell. Unless it's for like dirt cheap.
Yeah, like $2 million.
Yeah, like I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I think someone will want to pay Zeke. Like he'll find somewhere. I don't know. I could see him in like Baltimore or something.
Yeah, we'll see. That's interesting, man, because I really think the only team that valued him was his own. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, it was bizarre. Everyone's screaming for Tony Pollard to get more carries for the last 3 years, except people in Dallas.
Yeah, and then Zeke had like a pretty good touchdown count last year, if I remember correctly, because he was just the goal line back, right? Pollard was getting him down there the whole length of the field, and then Zeke, to his credit, he was punching him in. Like, he is a good goal line back. Let's see how long that lasts. But yeah, he can't make anyone miss anymore. He's not fast. He's hard to watch. Oh my God, such a slog every time he gets the ball.
What, did he go to Ohio State or something? Relax, bro.
Yeah, he did go to Ohio State, but that's honestly not why I'm saying that this time. Well, I don't like him though, so maybe it is.
And it sounds like Aaron Rodgers is going to be going to New York. I watched it on McAfee's show today. He, everyone knew it was trending that way, but he said he decided he was leaning retirement. Decided he ultimately said that he came out of his darkness retreat. For anyone who missed it, he was initially planning to retire. He came out of his darkness retreat and caught up on messages, and he said people he trusts gave him the impression the Packers have been trying to move him, and he felt slighted by that, and since came to the conclusion he would like to continue playing football as a New York Jet. There's obviously a holdup there, whether that's compensation or what have you, but Aaron Rodgers openly declared that is his intention, and we're going to see him in New York, which football-wise I'm very intrigued by. I mean, there's a whole other storyline that people are talking about. Then they signed Lazard, and Randall Cobb's got to come, and Martellus or Bennett. Mercedes Lewis.
No, Mercedes Lewis. Yeah.
But which is utterly ridiculous because the Jets are really nicely equipped with Elijah Moore and
Garrett Wilson.
Thank you, Garrett Wilson. Like, they even got Corey Davis there now, Lazard. So like they got more than enough.
Not to mention. Yeah, and I mean, he didn't mention the running back, but Breece Hall will be back and healthy, right? So I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. I can't fucking stand him. Everything about him, I like the delta between how much I respect him as a football player to how little I would ever want to talk to that guy is as big as any athlete that I've ever followed ever in any sport. Like.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Has he passed Russell Wilson for you then? Because this is how you used to describe Russell Wilson till it became more like. Yeah.
I mean, he has, because I never thought I thought Rodgers was like the best quarterback of all time sort of thing. That's the regard I held him in kind of thing. Basically before Mahomes, I thought that. I never quite got that I never got that high with Wilson. I always thought he was really good, but not like, transcendent Mount Rushmore type of guy. But yeah, I guess from a disliking the personalities, it's so funny because there's I think they're both assholes, but in two completely different ways, right? So it's funny to kind of think about them that way. But I saw a tweet is from Ben Solak at The Ringer that says, I guess Rodgers said, this was a quote, Rodgers goes, "All I want is transparency," says the guy who told everyone he was immunized. It's like, yeah, that's it right there, man. Like, go fuck yourself. Honest to God. with that.
become
I'm immunized.
it's become something with him, man. He's really
Oh, get
he's
the
been
fuck out of
smiling.
here.
Yeah, he's feeling empowered.
Really makes me think. Really makes me like the rest of the Rogers family. Like, wow.
Oh, you're like, I get it now.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I was like, wow, really, you guys like, kind of feels like it's on both sides. I don't know. Whenever there's a family tiff, it's like, no, I'm pretty sure this guy was just a dick. You guys don't
Yeah,
want to associate
for,
with him anymore.
and for a while, he was so quiet and harmless. Like there was no reason to have any disdain towards Aaron Rodgers until last few years. It feels like.
Yeah, last few years. Yeah, I agree. It's just, yeah, we've talked about it. Whatever. Smartest guy in the room syndrome. Just a dick. But football wise, fascinating.
Yeah. Till they drafted Jordan Love.
Right?
That feels like the time when
maybe that would be interesting to go back and see if it like really turned from there, if he got weirder and all that shit. But I don't know. I'd love to get like some sort of 60 minutes or whatever with his ex-girlfriends. Like, didn't he date Danica Patrick and Shailene Woodley or something like that? I'm sure they got some weird dirt on him they could tell us.
Yeah, Danica Patrick, I know he did for sure. I don't know who.
Olivia Munn maybe too. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's it, I think. That's the one. Okay, well, that's all we're gonna talk about that. Scotty, I appreciate you getting in a little rant on Aaron Rodgers there.
Sorry.
So yeah, man. Jamel Dean, 4 years, he's back. We got Lavonte for another year, our fearless leader in Tampa Bay. We'll see what Baker's got, whether he can battle it out with Kyle Trask. All the other Bucs items were picked up and discussed, as well as some other things from around the NFL. Really nice to be back on the airwaves with you, Mr. Capron. Shout out to anyone watched us live, whether you subscribe to YouTube. If you don't, you should. We appreciate it. Whether you're following us on Spotify or Apple, please make sure you rate and review the podcast. That helps us out a lot. And make sure you're getting your Bucs content online at bucsgameday.com, Sports Illustrated's only website dedicated specifically to covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you very much for listening. Look forward to talking again soon. NFL draft's getting closer, more free agency to go down, lots and lots to discuss. Until then, go Bucs.